Uh, so today we're going to perform an experiment about inter VLAN routing. So in this network we have three VLANs. This is VLAN 10, this is VLAN 20, VLAN 30, and the additional VLAN 100. So here we have a single multi-layer switch which is at the core layer. We have three different switches, switch 1, switch 2, switch 3, which are at the access layer, and there is a server which is also in the there is a server. Then there are three different pieces which are the end devices. Now here we are not using any distribution layer, and this multi-layer switch is directly connected to the switches at the core layer. So our main aim here is to send a packet from this particular PC in one VLAN to another PC in another VLAN. So for this, we have we assign different IPs to different interfaces, and first we need to configure the multi-layer switch. So for this multi-layer switch, we first connect the switch 1 to PC2, for which we are assigning the VLAN 10. As you can see here, the switch 2 is connected to PC2, for which there is a VLAN 20, and the switch 3 is connected to VLAN 30, and finally the server is connected to VLAN 100. So first, we will configure this multi-layer switch. In multi-layer switch, the multi-layer switch is connected to this server in the access mode, and this particular the other three switches in the access, they are connected to the end devices in the access mode. And finally, the multi-layer switch is connected to the different switches, that is switch 1, switch 2, and switch 3 in the trunk mode. Now, why there are two different modes, the access mode and the trunk mode? In the trunk mode states that if a particular PC in a one VLAN, for example, PC1 wants to send a packet to another VLAN, then what it does is it will first send an Ethernet frame to this particular switch, but it does not have any information of the VLAN that we are trying to send to. So what this particular switch does is, that is switch 1, it will, on receiving the internet frame, it will attach a tag to it of the encapsulation protocol 1Q. Now what that protocol does is, after attaching a tag, it will forward the packet to the multi-layer switch, and using that tag, the multi-layer switch will send it to the VLAN that we are trying to send to. So that is why it is necessary that we need to use the trunk mode. Now, for configuring the multi-layer switch, we need to go into the CLI of the multi-layer switch. So the first command, we go into the enable mode first to get access to the privilege commands. Then we go into the terminal. Next, first we will configure the interface G1/0/20, which is the interface between the multi-layer switch and the server VLAN 100. So here, this interface, as we had known earlier, that it is in the access mode. So we will assign the access mode to it using the command switch port mode access, and then the command switch port access VLAN 100 means that we are assigning this particular interface to VLAN 100. Then uh, we we will configure the interface between the multi-layer switch and the switches, that is switch 1, switch 2, and switch 3. So as you can see, this particular command, in this particular command, we are configuring the interface G1/0/2, which is the interface between the multi-layer switch 1 and the switch 2. This particular interface has to be in the trunk mode. So we will write the following commands, that is switch mode trunk encapsulation dot 1q. That means we are using the dot 1q encapsulation protocol to configure this particular interface, and then we will do the switch port mode trunk. That means this particular interface will now be used in the trunk mode. We use the similar commands in the rest of the two interfaces, that is the interface between switch 1 and multi-layer switch 1, and switch 3 and multi-layer switch 3. As you can see, these are the commands that we use for similar things. Now the next thing we need to do is that we have to assign the IP addresses to the different interfaces. So in this particular thing, there is a it is obvious that the VLAN 1 will be the management line. It will be the main line. So we will first assign the IP address to VLAN 10, that is this particular VLAN. So here we are assigning the IP address 10.1.1.254 with a subnet mask of 255.255.255.0. As you can see, it has been told to us to do that in this particular steps, that we need to uh, assign the IP addresses 10. The VLAN one has a IP address of the range in the range 10.1.1.0, and the last IP address is assigned to VLAN 1. So we're assigning the IP address 10.1.10.254 to VLAN 10, 10.1.20 to 254 to 20 and 30 and 100 to so on. As you can see in the multi-layer switch configuration, we have assigned the IP address 10.1.1.254 to a VLAN 10. Similarly, we have assigned the IP address to VLAN 10 is 10.1.1.10.254 with a subnet mask of 255.255.255.0. For VLAN 20, we have assigned the addresses as shown. Similarly, for VLAN 30 and VLAN 100. Now, the next thing we need to do is that we need to configure the access switch is next. So we'll go into one. We'll take for example the switch 1, and we'll go into its CLI. Similarly, first we'll go into the enable mode, then go into the config. Now here the first command that we entered is VTP domain CCNE. Now what VTP stands for? VTP stands for VLAN trunking protocol. What it does is, for example, if we want to add a new if you want to add a new VLAN to this switch, then the information of that particular VLAN will not be available to everyone. So we will need to provide that information to each and every device individually. So what VTP domain CCNA does it will provide the information to all the devices or all the multi-layer switches once it gets connected. Then the next command is VTP mode client. What VTP mode client does is it sends or forwards the VTP advertisements and synchronizes VLAN configuration information with other switches. So that means the client that the switch is connected to needs the information of that particular VLAN. So it directly gives the information to all the clients that are connected to it. Next, we need to configure the interface between between the switches and the end devices or the PCs. So first we configure the interface FO/1, which is the interface between switch 1 and the PC 1. So this particular in this particular interface is in the access mode. So we will assign the mode access to it, and then the command switch port access VLAN 10, which means that this particular interface has been assigned to VLAN 10. Then we exit this, and then we assign the IP address of 10.1.1.1 and with a subnet mask of 255.255.255.0 to VLAN 1, which is our management line. Now, using this range of addresses, uh, we will assign this IP address, and then we assign a default gateway, the 10.1.1.254. That is the IP address of VLAN 1. Now, what this means is that, for example, if the PC1 is sending a packet to the switch, now the switch is not aware of the destination address, but it needs to forward it. So what it does is it will blindly forward this particular packet to using this default gateway on VLAN 1. So it will be forwarded using this default gateway. That is why we assign the default gateway 10.1.1.254 with a subnet mask of 255 to 55 to, sorry, the default gateway of VLAN 1. So this is how we have configured the switch. Now the similar commands are used to configure the remaining two switches, that is switch 2 and switch 3. Now, finally, in order to check that whether our connection is right or not, we will use one PC to ping another PC on another VLAN network. That is, for example, we'll go into the command prompt of this PC and try to ping this PC. So ideally, it should provide us with a response. So the IP address of this PC2 is 10.1.20.20. So now we'll go into the command prompt of this particular PC and we'll try to ping it. So we'll type the command ping uh, 10.10.1.20.20, which is the IP address of the PC2 that which we are trying to connect. So we'll see the results. So as you can see, we are getting the reply. So this means that there is inter-VLAN network routing between a particular PC in this network and this network. So hence we have performed inter-VLAN routing in a single network where there are different VLANs. Thank you.